3 things that I wish everyone knew about neurodivergence and neurodiversity. 1. I am not neurodiverse. I, as an individual, am neurodivergent. It is only a population or a group of people that can be neurodiverse, and this is only if there are different kinds of neurotypes in that group. So, neurodiversity refers to the idea that groups have many different neurotypes. So you, as an individual, are not neurodiverse. You will either be neurodivergent or you will be neurotypical. And if you're listening to my page, chances are you're neurodivergent like me. 2, neurodivergent encompasses a number of different things. It's not just autism and ADHD. It's any kind of neurotype that differs from the majority norm, which we know as neurotypical. So neurodivergent, if you have bipolar, you are neurodivergent. If you are OCD, if you have a personality disorder, if you have complex PTSD or PTSD on its own. What this means is that your brain functions differently, and it will actually show functional differences in a brain scan. So this is not something that only has sort of psychological effects. It's tangible evidence that we can see that someone has a different kind of brain. Autism, for example, we have far more synapses than most people. So I like to joke, yeah, I got more brain cells than you. It's not exactly quite like that, but it just means we are constantly receiving about 42% more information. The third thing I want people to understand is what the neurodiversity movement means. And here you need to understand the word neuroaffirming. So up until the 1990s, autism, ADHD, sort of OCD, all those kind of things, and even bipolar, it was seen as a pathology or a disorder. And so sort of therapy looked at how do we change this person's behavior so they look more like a neurotypical. So in other words, it's pathologizing. But there are loads of us neurodivergents who don't see our brain type as a pathology or a disorder. It may be a disability in this world because our brain needs or brain type needs aren't catered for, whereas the vast majority of neurotypicals, the world is designed around them. And so being neurodivergent in a world that's neurotypical in nature means that you are at a disadvantage, and it can be considered a disability. So neuroaffirming, or the neurodiversity movement, actually celebrates the fact that we have different brain types, and it doesn't see it necessarily as a disorder. I'm not saying that having autism or ADHD can mean that you have a disability. It can come with a lot of comorbidities. These are things that co-occur that often are things like genetic illnesses or connective tissue disorders like I have, or sort of other learning disorders and that kind of thing. However, perhaps these things are more learning differences, and you'd see that a lot of neurodivergent people actually excel when they are in educational environments that work for their brain. So, neurodivergent refers to one person who has a different neurotype to the norm. Neurodiverse refers to a group of people in which there are at least 2 or more different neurotypes. So if I'm hanging around with 5 of my ADHD friends, we are not a neurodiverse group because we're only displaying one neurotype. Then neuroaffirming. This is the view that being autistic or ADHD or bipolar or having a personality disorder isn't inherently wrong or disordered. It's just a different way of being, and it comes with different ways of relating to the world and perceiving the world. The neurodiversity movement, which started in the 1990s, kind of led into the neuroaffirming thing, which states that just because someone's brain doesn't match the norm, it doesn't mean there's something wrong with them. Neurodivergent. A group is neurodiverse, or neurodiversity can be found in a group. Neuroaffirming, believing that it is not an illness, it is not a disorder, it is not a dysfunction, it's just a different way of being in the brain. And overall, the neurodiversity movement. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, pop them in the comments.